Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramaham Saparivrajakacarya Stotra Satasi Śrīmad His Divine Grace I.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Gaura Nityai ki, Shri Shri Radha Vallabha ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Sodharmai ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinde ki, Ita Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 7, chapter number 5, which is entitled as Prahlada, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu, and we are reading text number 6, so 7.5.6. Shri Narada Uvacha Shrutva putra giro daityaha Shrutva putra giro daitya Parapaksha samahitaha Parapaksha samahitaha Jahasa buddhir balanam Jahasa buddhir balanam Vidyate parabuddhibihi Vidyate parabuddhibihi Shri Narada Vacha Shrutva putra giro daityah Parapaksha samahitaha Jahasa buddhir balanam Bhidyate parabuddhibihi Shri Narada Vacha Shrutva putra giro daitya Parapaksha samahitaha Jahasa buddhir balanam Vidyate parabuddhibihi. Shri Narada Vacha Shrutva putra giro daitya Parapaksha samahitaha Shri Narada Vacha Shrutva putra giro daitya Parapaksha samahita Jahasa buddhir balanam Vidyate parabuddhibihi. Matajis. Shri Narada Vacha Shrutva putra giro daitya Parapaksha samahitaha Jahasa buddhir balanam Vidyate parabuddhibihi. Shri Narada Vacha Shrutva putra giro daitya Parapaksha samahitaha Jahasa buddhir balanam Vidyate parabuddhibihi. Shri Narada Vacha Narad Muni said, Shrutva, hearing, Putra Giraha, the instructive words of his son, Daitya, Hiranyakashipu, Parapaksha, on the side of the enemy. What is Parapaksha? Just remember this, yeah? On the side of the enemy, Parapaksha, because that's what Prabhupada will elaborate on. So we'll focus on that, Parapaksha, on the side of the enemy. Samahita, full of faith. Jahasa, laughed. Buddhi, the intelligence. Balanam, of small boys. Bhidyate, is polluted. Parabuddhibihi, by instructions from the enemy's camp. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki? Translation. Narad Muni continued, when Prahlad Maharaj spoke about the path of self-realization in devotional service, thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, heard Prahlad's words and he laughingly said, thus is the intelligence of children spoiled by the words of the enemy. Okay, purport. Hiranyakashipu, being a demon, would always consider Lord Vishnu and his devotees to be his enemies. Therefore, the word Parapaksha, on the side of the enemy, is used here. Hiranyakashipu never agreed with the words of Vishnu or Krishna, rather he was angered by the intelligence of a Vaishnava, Lord Vishnu. Lord Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Give up all other duties and surrender unto me. But demons like Hiranyakashipu never agree to this. Therefore Krishna says, Namam duskritino mudha prapadyante naradama maya apartha jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lovers among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion and who partake in the atheistic nature of the demons, do not surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 7.15. The Asura Bhava, the atheistic nature, is directly represented by Hiranyakashipu. Such peasants being Mudha and Naradama, fools and rascals, the lowest of men, would never accept Vishnu as the supreme and surrender unto him. Hiranyakashipu naturally became increasingly angry that his son Prahlad was being influenced by the camp of the enemies. He therefore asked that saintly peasants like Narada not be allowed within the residential quarters of his son, for otherwise Prahlad would be further spoiled by Vaishnava instructions. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Nama Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desa Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna everyone. So, today, in this episode of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, we are looking at Bhakta Prahlad's education. We have in Melbourne Bhakta Prahlad classes. There's a lot of Bhakta Prahlad classes, and there's just so many kids. Every year it seems to be increasing and increasing. And there are so many multiple different forums for different age group as well. So that is very nice, to have that, especially, for us in Melbourne, when children are given all those kind of education. Unfortunately, in my time, I didn't have that. All I was taught, is that 2 apples plus 2 apples is 4 apples, like those kind of things, And then later on, as I grew up, then the Darwin's theory and so on and so forth. But our children are very fortunate because they are Krishna sent, to these Bhakta Prahlad classes. But this Bhakta Prahlad, who of course is going to become Prahlad Maharaj later on, actually he is already Prahlad Maharaj at this point in time at the age of 5, he is also going through his schooling system, and that is what Bhagavatam is telling us, what kind of school he went through. When His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu was here, actually he was sitting here only, in one of his lectures he said, and it resonated with me, he said that Prahlad went to the school of atheism. And his teachers were Sanda and Amarka, so very, very atheistic school. Why? Because the school that Prahlad went to, things taught to him was of no value. In fact, it's quite contrary to what we are supposed to be learning and what, our scriptures are to tell us. He was learning, from our point of view as devotees, we are not even interested in dharma, artha, kama and moksha. We are interested in bhakti. These 4 Purusha arthas given in the Vedas, devotees are not even interested in that. In Prahlad's case, it's not even dharma, artha, kama and moksha. What he is taught is adharma, kama and artha. So complete reversal of what a child should be learning. But our Prahlad is different, He was not interested in any of these things that his teachers were teaching. The teachers were completely atheist. Of course, they were teaching for monetary gain, just as in the modern education system. No offense to the lovely teachers, but they also teach because of monetary remuneration. Vedic times, the teaching was not like that. It was knowledge flow, and in reciprocation there could be some Guru Diksha, but not on a fortnightly or monthly paid basis. But what to do? Such is the so-called fabrication today. That is kind of unavoidable. Of course, unless you come to our temple, and come to so many classes that are pretty much free, apart from some printing cost and all the other things, but pretty much free. So these two teachers, they were paid teachers teaching atheism against, the will and desire of Prahlad. So in their brain, they had their two brains, the left and the right brain, the Sandar and America. But in their left brain, there was nothing right. And in their right brain, there was nothing left. So pretty empty, hologram. And this is what they are teaching. So at one point in time, our Hiranyakashipu, he was like a father. Welcome Prahlad on his lap when he's coming back from his Gurukul. And he's putting Prahlad on his lap and he's going to, nicely cuddle Prahlad and all that, being the father, of course, naturally. And he asked Prahlad a wonderful question. Tell me, Prahlad, what have you learned in the school as the best subject? Now, what do you expect Hiranyakashipu to hear? Because the teachers are from him, he is naturally going to expect what he has already, the curriculum that he has sent. Not Australian curriculum or Indian curriculum, but Hiranyakashipu curriculum. That's what he's going to hear. So he is anticipating that. But to his utter wonder and astounding reply, Prahlad gives that the best subject, my dear father, is that one should give up all this family life and dedicate oneself to Lord Vishnu. How do you think Hiranyakashipu is feeling at this moment? Furious, infuriating, yeah? But there is one solace. He's feeling infuriated, but he thinks, for now, at this point in time, we kind of know Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj past time, but at this point in time, he is angered, but he laughs. Why does he laugh? Why do you think he laughs? And doesn't chastise or punishes Prahlad too much. He just laughs, smilingly. Why? Volunteers? Chota bacha, small kid, anybody else? He's a fool. So why does he smile? Let Bhagavatam answer that question, because all of us read it. So I just wanted to see who caught it. Now let's read it out. Prabhupada, yes, Mataji?
He is not worried. He doesn't know what to show.
He's not worried? Who? Hiranyakashipu or Prahlad is not worried? He's not worried. Why? Because?
From his actions.
Yeah. Okay, he's maybe not worried. Let Bhagavatam answer that question again. So let's hear the translation again, yeah? Now capture this. Narad Muni continued. When Prahlad Maharaj spoke about the path of self-realization, what is the best subject matter? The path of his spiritual realization. No? Take to bhakti. In devotional service, in bhakti. These words would be infuriating Hiranyakashipu at the moment, yeah? Because this is the doctrine that he doesn't relate to. Thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, faithful to the camp of the father's enemies means, so Prahlad's father is Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu's enemy is Lord Vishnu. And who is faithful to Lord Vishnu? Prahlad. No, so you get that English grammar, yeah? So being faithful to his father's enemy. So Prahlad is faithful to the enemy of his father, which is what? Para. Remember the word we had to learn? Parapaksha. No, paksha means side and parapaksha means the other side. So Prahlad is on the other side. It's like almost, what example? Like my son, he supports Australian cricket team, being born Aussie. So when I first took him to the cricket match, not that we devotees go to cricket match these days too much, but in any case, when I took him, there was something going on a long time ago, and he said, I support Australian. And that was I was wonderstruck, because, we grew up from another cultural background. So he's ABCD, Australian born confused Desi. Whereas I'm Pakka Desi, like that. So, I was always struck, with the history. And that is fine. There's nothing wrong with him, right? He's born Australian, so what to do? But here, Prahlad Maharaj is born devotee. Actually, he's even devotee before his birth. In the womb only, he's a devotee. So he's on the side of Vishnu. But Hiranyakashipu cannot tolerate it. So he's saying, be faithful to his father's enemies. Hiranyakashipu, the king of demons, heard Prahlad's words. What were the words? Bhakti. And he laughingly said, so that's what I was asking you, why did he laugh? He laughingly said, thus is the intelligence of children spoiled by the words of his enemy, of the enemy. So he is suspecting that actually it is not so much of Prahlad's fault. So I'm not going to, rebuke him or punish him or chastise him. The problem is from somewhere else. Somebody is brainstorming him. Prabhupada had the same problem to face in the Americas, yeah? Somebody said to Prabhupada that you are brain washing. And Prabhupada said, what's the problem? Their brain is so dirty, let's wash them. So here the same thing is going on, Hiranyakashipu is thinking that Prahlad is being brainwashed. And of course he is not being brainwashed, yeah? So then, Hiranyakashipu laughs. And then he says, Prabhupada writes in the purport, I'll read this again. Not the whole purport, of course, but Prabhupada writes, he is Hiranyakashipu, the last sentence, yeah? He therefore asks that the saintly peasants like Narada Muni not be allowed within the residential quarters of his son. So Ben the teachers who are coming to Prahlad Maharaj, perhaps secretly, and giving him all Krishna Katha. So he wants the teachers to be Ben. So he wants his own teachers, which is Sanda and Amarka, to be the teachers and not anybody else. So that's why he laughs. Later on what happens, fast forward another time, I'll actually come back to this only. So then what happens, Prahlad goes back to his school, Hiranyakashipu is kind of alert but not super duper angry at the moment. And then Prahlad goes to his camp and then his teachers catch him. Sometimes when the students are naughty, the teachers catch him outside. Of course, Prahlad Maharaj is not being naughty. But the teachers catch him to say, Prahlad, you sit down, This is what not we have taught you, mate. Where did you learn all this from? Vishnu is supposed to be our enemy. And you are saying that surrender to Vishnu is everything? Where do you get this bogus theory from? Tell us what's the source of your information. So tricky teachers, yeah? Kind to indirectly get the news from Prahlad that what's the cause of his going in the Parapaksha side. So Prahlad says, enemies, Pandita Samadarshina, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini, so Nichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. So Prahlad is Pandita Samadarshina. For him, there is no friend, there is no enemy. His father, who is so unfavorable to him, even Prahlad doesn't see his father as an enemy. How on earth can he see anybody else as enemy? So Prahlad says, who's the enemy? Everybody is the son of God, and I don't have any enemies. What are you talking about? How do you think the teachers are feeling now? It's like, oh my God, what's wrong with this kid? Send him to detention center. So then they put him under some kind of rigorous curriculum, to say, let's, get Vishnu out of his mind. And then put, Hiranyakashipu as the Supreme Personality of God. It is but Prahlad is not flinching. Why? Because Prahlad's devotion to Krishna is saturated with love. It's just so condensedly saturated that nothing else can penetrate his mind apart from Krishna. Like Prabhupada gives in the Nectar of Devotion the example of the iron rod. You take an iron rod like this and you pour water on this. This is probably not iron but some kind of metal. You put water on this, it's not going to penetrate through. Why? Because the molecules are so packed tightly together that there is no space for water to penetrate. What to speak of water, even air cannot penetrate. But you put water on this, everything will be absorbed. Why? Because the molecules are not condensed. So Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Devotion that our mind is like that. If we can make our mind compact with Krishna like the iron metal, then the power of Maya will not be able to penetrate through. Nothing. It will all just come. It may come, hit, and then bounce off or rolls off. How the water sometimes falls off some of the leaves, like that. So it will touch because we are in the material world. So the influence of material nature may touch us, but it's not going to penetrate through. It will just bounce off. And that's Prahlad. Whereas, if we are not like Prahlad, then when something attacks us, then it penetrates. And how much it penetrates depends how compact is our Krishna bhakti. The more we compact it, the better for us. We are immunized. COVID was attacking everybody, but if we are immunized, then it may get through our system, but it will also flush out. Yeah, otherwise it could be very, very fatal. So Prahlad is unflinching. Then they persisted to say, well, tell me who your enemy is, because Prahlad, otherwise you will be in danger. Your father will be, again more angry, so on and so forth. So tell us. But Prahlad insists, that he doesn't have any enemies. Everybody is children of God. This is the same thing that Lord Kapila tells Madhavendra Huti in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Titikshva karunikaha suhridam sarvadehinam ajata satrava santa sadhava sadhubhushanam. So titikshva, so what is the symptom of a devotee? What are his characteristics? He is titikshva. He is tolerant. So Prahlad Maharaj is tolerant. Titikshva karunika. He is very compassionate. Prahlad is compassionate even to his teachers who are demons and to his father who is the king of the demons. So very, very compassionate. Titikshva karunika suhridam. Suhrid means, hird means heart, and suhrid means that who is very close to your heart. So the devotee takes everybody as their friend. And of course, Krishna is the best friend. Suhridam sarva dehinam. Sarva dehinam. Everybody is the friend. There is no enemy. And then, ajata satrava santa. Ajata satrava. Satru means enemies. And ajata satru means he has got no enemies. So devotee has got no enemies. So that is his characteristic. So, Prabhupada writes in the purport then, about this Parapaksha. Prabhupada says that Hiranyakashipu was always on the other side of the camp. Why? Because he was an enemy of the Lord. He took the Lord as an enemy. Maybe better phrase like that. Prabhupada says then who are not Lord's enemies? Who doesn't? So Prabhupada writes, those who rebel against the Lord are on the enemy side. And those who don't rebel against the Lord and take him as the master are on the Lord's side. And Prabhupada quotes this verse in there. Not the full verse, but Prabhupada quotes half of the verse. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18.66 that, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I will protect you from all kind of sinful reactions. Do not fear. So those of us who get to that stage, abandoning everything and just doing Krishna bhakti, that is in Krishna's camp at the end of the day. But before we get there, let's just track ourselves a little back at our level, at our sadhaka level. To become pure devotees, first we have to become devotees. To develop us, pure devotees means what? A selfless relationship with Krishna. To be able to develop a selfless relationship with Krishna, we first have to develop a relationship with Krishna. So we wind ourselves back to be something more practical. And then don't wind too much back because then you are getting into the territory of Hiranyakashipu. And what is that territory? Let's maybe start from there, because that's what Prabhupada quotes. Let's go to Hiranyakashipu's territory, those who are there. Then come back to at the middle ground, let's say, and then the gradual process of perfection to sarva dharman parityaja. So for some time, let's just zoom into this, yeah? So Prabhupada quotes, Namam duskritino, let's recite this maybe together, yeah, because Prabhupada quotes it in the purport. Namam duskritino mudha prapadyante naradhama Maya apartha jnana. Actually, it's Maya apartha jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. So let's break this down. We know this, most of us know this, but let's just refresh it from our Bhakti Shastri days and all that. So Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita that there are 4 kinds of people who do not surrender unto him. Prapadyante means surrender. Prapad, surrender. So there are 4 types of people who do not surrender unto me. And who are they? The mudhas. Let's break it down. Namam, so duskritino. Kriti means qualities or characters. And duskriti means the bad characters. And we'll contrast it with the favorable people as well in a minute, yeah? So let's just zoom into this duskriti, the unfavorable people. And they are what? Namam duskritino mudha. So first is the mudha. And then prapadyante naradhama. Second is the naradhama. Then maya apartha jnana. That's the third one. And ashuram bhava ashrita. So ashuram, 4 types of people, yeah? So the mudhas are the animalistic people, like mudha is an S, like an animalistic mentality people, personality. So that's mudha. Then there is naradhama. Nara means human beings and adhama means lowest. So the lowest of the human beings. And then maya apartha. Jnana. Jnana is knowledge and apartha means to be stolen. So whose knowledge is stolen. And then the asuras, the demons. These are the 4 types of people who do not surrender unto Krishna. Now scientists say that the universe is made up of protons, electrons, neutrons, but they forgot to mention that it is also made up of morons. No, like Hiranyakashipu and Sandar and Amarkar and all that, teaching, garbage. And actually, unfortunately, is also the case in the modern education system, yeah? Like, I reflect on what I was taught, and most of the things are not actually even important to me. And the kids are being taught, our children, our devotee kids are really, really struggling with Darwin's theory, taught in the schools. Now, man came from monkey. Our children cannot relate to it. Huh? No, we are just so crystal clear that there is a supreme creator behind everything, and that is Krishna. And for our children, especially Bhakta Prahlad children, who have been so convinced with this fact, with this simple fact, it is very absurd for them to hear that we came from monkeys. It just doesn't reconcile with them. It's just not possible, One time, a child went to his mother and said, "Mummy, you are saying we are coming from Krishna, but Daddy is saying we came from monkeys. Who is correct?" And the mother said, "Both of us are correct. I'm talking about my side, and Daddy is talking about his side." 50-50 genetic, made up. So Prabhupada said, yes, we actually men do come from monkey, because we may have been monkeys in our last life, because according to our karma, we may have been monkeys, we may have been reptiles, aquatics, whatever. And in the next life, we may also become monkeys, especially this Namam, Duskritana, Mudha are going to become monkeys only. But the fact is that the origin, the genesis is Krishna, Darwin's theory is about the big, or the Big Bang theory, for example. It all started with the explosion of the gas, or the gases. Prabhupada said, where did the gas come from? Who exploded the gas? Bhumi rapo anulo vayo kham mano buddhi re vacha. So Bhumi rapo anulo vayo kham. So Prabhupada said, gas comes from Krishna. Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita that these 8 elements come from me. So even if Big Bang explosion is to be explored, where is the gas coming from? And that's coming from Krishna. And then Newton's theory, the apple, gravity, apple fell down. And he started fascinating himself. Why did the apple fall down? Why did the apple fall down? The whole education is teaching this only. Why did the apple fall down? Because there is gravitational force. But the spiritualist thinks different. Where did the apple come from? Forget about falling, let it fall wherever it's falling. Whether it's falling up or down or sideways, what difference does it make? Just take the apple and eat it. But be grateful that where did the apple come from? It just came from a small seed. Where did the seed come from? Apple. My goodness. Where did the apple come from? Seed. Where did the seed come from? Apple. Now, such a fascinating recycling process that Krishna has created. And the only time it is spoiled, when there is a human intervention. Otherwise, the nature will keep producing apples. Now we are not interested in apples, of course, because we want Apple products. iPhone, iPad, ahamkar, ahamkar, my car. Like that. So all these things are already there, Prabhupada says. So the origin is Krishna, and that is what? So these are the animalistic fool is the point we were making. Yeah, people whose mind are lost. Because a lot of times we hear about human rights. We say, people want human rights, What are they actually fighting for? At the end of the day, the human rights, according to the modern definition, is about eating, sleeping, mating, and defending only. They want enough so that they can eat. They want enough so that they can mate, they can defend, and then they can sleep. But actually, if you analyze it, the human rights, today's human right is nothing but animal rights. Because animals also do those 4 things, and maybe a little bit more peacefully compared to us. We can't sleep properly. The moment there's a small knock, and then the spouse says, there's a thief in the house or something. Please go and check the doors are locked. Especially in the western suburbs, because burglary is rampant, It's very, very sad situation. So like that. So we can't sleep peacefully. But the animals sleep peacefully. They don't have any problems in the forest. They don't need $1,000 of beds to sleep. So, for them, their rights is, again, only intruded when human beings violate and enter the forest and whatever. Because otherwise they are pretty happy in their habitat. So we are fighting for human rights. So what Prahlad is saying to Hiranyakashipu, that actually the essence of human rights is what? To understand who we are and what is our goal. And that is the science of self-realization, the path of self-realization. Now he tells Hiranyakashipu. So Prahlad also tells Hiranyakashipu later in Bhagavatam, quoted this way. Actually, Matirna Krishne parato sato va mitho vipadyeta griha vratanam adanta gobhir nishitam tamishram punha punascharvita charvananam. So, Prahlad says that Matirna Krishne parato sato va. Matir, no? If our mind is not dovetailed into Krishna, no? Into thinking of him by three things. Matirna Krishna parato sato va mitho. So parato sato, so para means others, swa means your own self. So if our mind is not inclined towards Krishna by somebody else's inclination and preaching and inspiration and all that, and if our mind is not inclined towards Krishna by our own inspiration, or if our mind is not inclined towards Krishna by the combination of the two, mitho vipadyeta, then adanta gobhir vishitam tamishram. Then we are unfortunately, sadly gliding towards tamishram, towards hellish condition of life. If our mind is not dovetailed into Krishna. Punascharvita charvananam. So what we are doing is puna, again and again and again, chewing what has already been chewed. Like in India, when we chew on the sugar cane, and then we just spit it out. And then somebody comes and then tries to chew that sugar cane that has been spit out. Well, there is no juice left there because it's already chewed. But material enjoyment is like that. Prahlad tells us that we are chewing what the juice has already been extracted. So what are you going to gain out of that? The real juice is in Krishna, in bhakti. So Prahlad tells Hiranyakashipu to do that. And in our case, we have this experience, we have these realizations, that for most of us who have been coming to Krishna consciousness, regularly and making the advancement, at the pace we all can, we have that experience of Krishna in our life, correct? We see his hand in our life, especially in times of trials and tribulations, we see that somehow or the other, when we are distressed or when we are going through some anxiety, we see that it is there for a purpose. A pure devotee apparently suffers. A devotee also apparently suffers. And those who are not devotees also suffer. So some suffering always comes on everybody. But the realization is different. When the devotee suffers, the devotee sees the suffering as the blessing of the Lord. I have been put in this calamity at the moment, and I'm pretty sure that Krishna has got a plan for me. And the plan is that through this, Krishna will purify me. He will bring me closer to him. Prabhupada writes in Bhagavatam that, again in India, when we don't walk bare feet here, right? But in India we do. So when we walk bare feet, sometimes, the thorn pricks our feet. And how do you remove the thorn? You just pluck out another thorn and then use that thorn to remove the thorn that has pricked our feet. Yeah. So use a thorn to remove the thorn. So similarly, when we are put through, troubled times, it is firstly a token reaction of our karma, past karma. Krishna minimizes it and gives us a small dosage. And out of that, Krishna puts us in such a way that he knows that it will inspire us to come closer to him. In times of difficulties, a sincere devotee becomes more devoted to Krishna. And in times of difficulties, a person who is not sincere becomes more insincere. So see the reciprocation, the response is different. In sincere devotee, we become more sincere. Insincere, we will become more insincere. A lot of people will say, oh, where is God? Why has this happened to my life? I was going to the temple once every year. Every Diwali without fail I have gone to temple. Why has this happened to my life? Well, what about the other 365 days? Krishna is not an annual visit, yeah? Krishna is a daily visit, nanosecond visit, like that. So they'll become insincere, people become more sincere, so on and so forth. So I was saying that, and then why do pure devotees apparently seem to be going through tough times? Krishna again puts them into those kind of difficulties so that Krishna can teach us that when we are pure, no matter what, our devotion is unflinching, and he wants us to come to that stage. And we have got so many examples, even in our modern times, we see so many of our spiritual masters who are aging and going through apparently hardship, in terms of their physical body, but their dedication is just ever sweetly increasing. And that's the lesson. And that inspires us, That just inspires us to say, if they can, then so can. Otherwise, if there is no examples like that, then what will happen to us? To say, Krishna, we were following so much, we were chanting so much, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We were doing so much of seva, so much of sadhana. Why did this happen to my life? Well, look at the others. It's also happening in their lives. Even Bhagavatam and Ramayana is full of examples. Prahlad Maharaj himself is an example. I don't think any of us would go through the difficulties that Prahlad is going through. No, his own father is, hell-bent on killing him. His teachers are teaching him absolutely rubbish. He is being tortured, he is being poked, he is being burned, he is being fried, toasted, roasted. But his devotion is saturated. So what is our problem? Nothing compared to Prahlad. Mother Sita, she is the daughter of a royal king of the world. And she is married to a person who is supposed to be the next king. He is the prince. That's what she got into when she married. But what is she going through? Bare feet, walking into the jungles, facing the ferocious animals, eating simple fruits. No Ekadashi pizza. There was no pasta and pizza in Chitrakoot. There was only, fruits and nuts and berries and maybe some vegetables. That's all. But she's happy. Why? Because the mind is saturated with Lord Ram. The opulence of the royal Ayodhya does not penetrate her mind. That is punascharvita charva nanam. That is useless. All she wants is Lord Ram. Bharat Maharaj, again back to Ramayana. KK did all this orchestration just so that Bharat can become the king of the world and Ram be banished to the forest. And when Bharat comes, what does he say? I don't want this. Where is my Lord Ram? Why? Because the mind is saturated with Lord Ram. The opulence of Ayodhya does not entice him whatsoever. And then he rejects it. I don't want this palace. If my Lord is sleeping on the ground in the forest, I am going to dig a bed that is lower than the earth. So he digs into the earth, lowers himself down, and then sleeps on the kusha grass. We want our bed to be raised, right? And on top of the bed, there should be a spring mattress. And then still we complain of neck ache and back ache. But here, what to speak of Ayodhya? They reject all the opulence. All they want is service to the Lord. So Bharat is doing that self-induced tapasya, austerity, because the love is so strong. So it doesn't affect. So, in our case, I was saying we have those experiences. We go through troubled times. We can see others going through troubled times. And then we can see non-devotees also going through troubled times. But all of this should inspire us to get closer and closer to Krishna. There was another verse that, Bhaktir pareshanu bhavo viraktir anyatra chaisa trika eka kalaha prapadyamana yathas nathashus tusti pusti sud apayo anughasham. Let's explore this verse, yeah? So, bhakti pareshanu bhavo viraktir. Three things happen when we come to devotional service. When we come to Krishna consciousness, three things happen. Bhaktir pareshanu bhavo viraktir. Bhakti, our devotional service goes up. Our bhakti goes up. Anubhava. Anubhava means experience, realizations, that goes up. And then viraktir. Viraktir means detachment. We get detached from things that are not favorable to Krishna consciousness gradually. Remember, I said to become pure devotees, we have to become devotees first, yeah? So, bhaktir, pareshanu, bhava, viraktir. What are the three? Bhaktir, anubhava and viraktir. Devotional service, love of God, experience and detachment from material things happens trikala eka. Trikala eka. Three means three. Three means three, right? What else can it mean? Eka means one, kala means time. So these three things happen simultaneously when we come to Krishna consciousness, just as tusti, pusti, shubhapayo, anughasha. Three things happen when we eat food. I'm not talking about excretion for now, just when the food goes in, yeah? Three things happen simultaneously. What are the three things that happen when we eat food? Have you ever eaten food? Yeah? So can you tell me what three things you experience when you eat food? Satisfaction, nourishment, somebody said, yeah? Satisfaction happens, nourishment happens, and feeling? Feel the food, yeah? Okay, so when you feel the food, what happens? You want more? Dil mange more? What happens then? Yeah, which is the nourishment, yeah, let's say, nourishment, energy, yeah. So tushti, pushti, shubhayo, shudapayo, anughasam. So tushti, we get satisfaction. Pushti, we get the pleasure of eating. And we want more and more until we are saturated. Chaitanya Prabhu was giving this example. When we see gulab jamun, then we take one gulab jamun and eat. Then we pick up another gulab jamun and eat. Then we pick the third gulab jamun and eat. Then we pick the fourth one and eat. Then the fifth one we eat. Then we say, you also eat, na? Why are you just looking at me? You also eat. Because by that time, the satisfaction has come, right? Initially we said, just leave the whole bucket here. This is my territory. I'm the gulab jamun master. Nobody comes to me. But in material world, in economics we learn, what is it called? The law of diminishing return. Any economist? Yeah? Law of diminishing returns. What does it mean? So if you were to plot a graph, material enjoyment, initially it just explodes, exponential increase, goes like this. And then it plateaus, and then it starts dwindling. So one gulab jamun here. So this is the cave, yeah? One gulab jamun, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 gulab jamun. Graph is back to zero satisfaction now. So tushti, pushti, and then shuddhapaya anughashan, which is eradication of hunger. Because you are no longer hungry, right? You ate because you are hungry. Sometimes, a lot of times we eat when we are not hungry as well, right? You see prasadam, it's like Mahaprasade Govinde. So, but eventually the eradication of hunger is there. So just as nourishment, pleasure, and eradication of hunger happens simultaneously with the biting of every morsel of grain, similarly, bhakti, experience, and viraktir, detachment from material enjoyment happens trikala eka, simultaneously with every time we come to Krishna consciousness, like that. So, talk about intelligence for a few minutes and then we'll pause there, right? Prabhupada talks about intelligence. So let's read this verse for the third time. Not the full verse, but just to get the essence. Prabhupada writes, or narrates, translates. When Prahlad Maharaj spoke about the path of self-realization in devotional service, thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, heard Prahlad's words and he laughingly said, we now know why he laughed, thus, and now let's focus on this last line, yeah? Thus is the intelligence of children spoiled by the words of enemy. So two things, Hiranyakashipu laughs because he thinks, bacha hai, somebody said in Hindi, he's only a kid. And then he knows that, it's a kid's intelligence, which is not matured at this point in time, With the experience, of course, we all mature as we go, yeah? So, not so matured, small kid, ignore his words. That's how he's thinking. And then Prabhupada talks about intelligence. So, let's just talk about 5 minutes about intelligence. Now, what is intelligence and what role it plays in our bhakti, and how do we compare and contrast it to our mind? Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita, that in the order of hierarchy, the lowest of all that is matter, which is dead, it is unanimated. So matter, higher than matter is senses, higher than senses is mind, higher than mind is intelligence, and higher than intelligence is the soul, because the soul is spiritual. So let's just talk about the mind and intelligence for some time, yeah? The way we as devotees should operate, at our initial days, let's say, can somebody get a chair for Mahatma Prabhu, please? Oh, there's one chair behind you, Mataji, so maybe just pass on that. So our intelligence has to be strengthened so that when there is a competition between mind and intelligence, the intelligence should win, until of course we are all fully devotees, in which case it just doesn't really matter, because mind and intelligence are both dovetailed to Krishna. But maybe take 2 steps back. The issue that we face, and definitely the non-devotees face, is that our mind at the moment, remember these words, our mind at the moment, it is stronger and swifter than our intelligence. And therefore, disciplining ourselves become very difficult. For example, take a smoker. Even a smoking person knows that smoking can cause is injurious to your health, can cause cancer. I mean, packet pain, like it's in front of the packet only. How hard is it to understand that for anybody? But why do they smoke? And let's not be so condemning to the smokers only. There are so many temptations that we also have that we are not able to give up. For example, I have a problem with eating too much sweets. I'll embarrass myself. I just can't resist when there is ice cream, for example. But recently I have tried to control, just to give me some encouragement. So like there are so many temptations, whether it's ice cream or it's chocolate or it's alcohol or meat eating or smoking or opposite sex or cinemas or cricket or whatever it is, those temptations are there. A lot of times we knowingly do it. So the question becomes, why do we knowingly do it? The answer is that our mind is stronger and faster than our intelligence. Now when we turn it around, if we make our mind stronger and faster than, if we make our intelligence stronger and faster than our mind, then we are winning. So then what will happen? Now put a phenomena in place, right? Let's say there is, again, cigarette, for the non-devotees. So when the mind tells them to smoke, they are tempted and captivated by their desire out of course, their habit, and they just indulge in the smoking. Because what has happened here, the mind is faster than the intelligence. But if the intelligence was faster than the mind, then the intelligence will say, I know it's captivating, I know you are fascinated with this, I know you are want to indulge in this, but you are also analyze this is not good for you. Firstly, it's expensive. Thirdly, it's killing your own self. Who wants to kill their own selves? You can't be such a rascal. Don't smoke. So then the intelligence is overpowered and outraged and overpowered the mind. Now same thing for us as devotees, whenever there are temptations in life, whatever it be, if we can make our intelligence stronger than our mind, then we have got that, let's say, the minute second or whatever that time period is there between the analysis. It's a quick analysis, right? It's almost simultaneous analysis. But if we can just make the intelligence stronger, then we have got such chance. That's why Krishna says that intelligence is higher than mind in Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Otherwise, what will happen so I was about to say, so how do we strengthen our intelligence is the question, and how do we purify our mind is the question. Because when both are stronger in bhakti, mind and intelligence, then it's a win-win situation. But if the intelligence is higher and the mind is not, then at least it's a win-lose situation. But if both are weak, then it's a lose-lose situation. So we at least want to be in a win-lose situation, if not in the win-win situation. Yeah. So how do we make it stronger? Krishna again tells us in Bhagavad Gita that you strengthen your intelligence through scriptural study. So when we read Bhagavad Gita, when we read Śrīmad, just maybe move a little bit up so we can create some room for. We'll only go for another few minutes. Just find yourself a space. I'm sure they are our new guest to the temple. Thank you. So how do we make our intelligence stronger? By doing scriptural study. By reading Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, by reading Bhagavad Gita, by enrolling in different courses. By reading. We strengthen our intelligence. And how do we make our mind stronger? Of course, by taking darshan of the Lord. Looking at nice deities' photos, chanting. Chanting is mantra, man-entra. So that purifies our mind. So that is something that we can work on. So devotees are of course very careful, they are very intelligent and their mind is also dovetailed to Krishna. Prabhu, just hold on for 1 second if you don't mind. I'm about to conclude, then I'll take questions and comments. Yeah? So, and then how do we do this? Lord Kapila again tells Madhavananda in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, where do you find that association where these things can be discussed? Krishna Katha, from which you can get experience, bhakti and detachment. So Lord Kapil tells Madhavati satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkarna rasayana katha tajjoshana dasvapavarga vartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramashyati. So satam prasangan mama virya samvido. Satam prasangan, do the sangha of pure devotees. Because in the association of pure devotees, what happens? Satam prasanga mama virya samvido. Samvad means discourse. So in the discussion of my devotees, Krishna Katha is happening. So take the association. Mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha. So bhavanti, it will lead to what? Hrit karna rasayana katha. So hirday, in your heart, it will touch you. It will purify your heart, purify our heart. Karana, our ears will hear something that is a spiritual sound vibration. Hit karana rasayana, the juice. So now we are not chewing the sugar cane that has been chewed and spit out. We are chewing the sugar cane that is full of juice. And that juice is Krishna Katha. No? So bhavanti hrit karana rasayana katha. Tat joshanat asvapavarga vartmani. Joshanat, then you'll have the enthusiasm to come to me. And then what will happen in our life? Tat joshanat asvapavarga vartmani. Shraddha, Ratir, Bhaktir, Anukrashmati. 3 things will happen. Today a lot of things are about 3, yeah? For some reasons. I didn't plan like that, trust me. But I'm now thinking that a lot of things are 3s. Good things come in 3s. Normally we say it comes in pairs, yeah? But today it has come in 3s by Krishna's arrangement, let's say. So Shraddha, Ratir, Bhakti. So Shraddha. In the association of devotees like this, the roaming mic, I can use that for some. Oh, it's working now. Yeah, it's back on now, yeah? Did I lose you for some time on this? Yes. Yeah, okay, so it's back on now. Okay, we are plugged to Krishna. When we are not plugged into Krishna consciousness, then nobody will want to hear us. And even if you shout, nobody will hear us. But when we are plugged into Krishna consciousness, then it's very, very vibrant, yeah? Prabhupada gives the example of the flame and the spark. As long as the spark is plugged into the fire or connected to the fire, it is bright. But the moment the spark comes or disassociates, detaches itself from fire, gradually it just dwindles and becomes invisible. So we are like that spark of Krishna. When we are connected to Krishna, then we are all very, very jubilant and very happy. But when we detach from Krishna, then we are that lost spark, which has got no spark, like that, yeah. So Shraddha, Ratir, Bhaktir, Anukrishmati. So we get Shraddha, then we get Ratir. Ratir is the taste, and then we get Bhakti. We get the love of Godhead. So association of devotees is very important. So in Prahlad's case, his association has initially come from Narad Muni, who has given him Krishna consciousness even before birth. So you can see the power of a pure devotee like Narad Muni transforming somebody in the womb of a mother like Prahlad Maharaj. And now because Prahlad Maharaj is such a pure devotee, he is able to influence the atheistic teachers like Sandhya and Amarka and the other children around him because of his purity of his intent. He is able to influence that. So like that. Now then I'll leave you with the sweet verse, about, we talked about mind and intelligence, yeah? We'll leave you with the sweet verse from Mukundamala about how the mind can be dovetailed into thinking of Krishna, yeah? Krishna tvadiya padapankaja panjarantam adyaiva me vishatumana hamsa prana prayana samaye kafavata pitthai Kantha varodhana vidahu smaranam kutaste. Beautiful prayer. So what is being said here, that Krishna tvadiya padapankaja panjarantam. Oh Krishna, tvadiya, yours, padapankaja, your lotus feet. Oh Krishna, in your lotus feet, padapankaja panjarantam advaiva me vishatu manasa rajahamsa. So just as the swan likes to tangle itself and coil itself into the stem of the lotus flower, similarly, oh Krishna, I want to tangle and toil my mind into your lotus feet. So I want my mind to be absorbed in your lotus feet, just as the swan is absorbed in the stem of the lotus. Because otherwise what will happen? Prana prayana samaye kafavata pittai. Prana samay. When at the time of death, if I don't do it now, at the time of death, when my kantha, when my throat, is choking with mucus and bile, then at that time I might not be able to remember you. Kutaste, smaranam kutaste. What if I am not able to remember you then? Oh my God, it's going to be disastrous. So, oh my dear sweet Lord, please help me so that I can meditate and think and relish your memories, your katha, the devotee association, the prasadam, everything about Krishna consciousness. Please help me get to that stage. And this is a beautiful prayer that we can also all imbibe in our life. Oh my Krishna, please engage me in your thinking, in your feeling, and in your willing. Please help me become a devotee so that one day we can become pure devotees. No? To become a pure devotee, we first have to become devotees. Okay, I'm going to pause this here. It's 9:15. And I'm happy to take any questions and comments. Mahatma Prabhu, you wanted to make a question or?
Thank you very much.
Just say it from there and I'll rephrase it for the audio audience, for the online audience. You can just say it, bro. I can hear you.
How to observe the mind in the lotus feet of Krishna? Can you tell us other than chanting the holy name, association of devotees, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, all those 5 Mangalas are there. What else you want to add?
Okay, so the question for the online viewers is, that, other than chanting, visiting holy places of devotees, taking darshan of the Lord, there to engage our mind in thinking of the Krishna. The question already has the answer in it. Absorption of Krishna. The answer is already in your question. And I'm saying this very carefully because there is no need to develop anything else. Shraddha Ratir Bhaktir Anukramishti. When we take to Krishna consciousness seriously, we will have faith that whatever Prabhupada has given us is already enough. There is absolutely no need to manufacture anything on our own. Who are we to manufacture all the other ways and then to say, okay, maybe this will help, this will help. It can. There's no doubt. I'm not arguing with that. It can help us. There will be other things that inspire us. For example, for me personally speaking, reading Śrīmad Bhāgavatam inspires me, because I like philosophy. The reason I came to Krishna consciousness, especially I don't come from a very pure, very religious background. The reason I like Krishna consciousness is because of philosophy. It's absolutely astounding. Just never ever thought before reading Prabhupada's books that there could be so much logic in our scriptures. Everything is an answer. And for once, I had more answers than the number of questions I had. Before reading Prabhupada's books, I had so many questions, and there were not enough answers, or answers that were not convincing to me. And then I gave that up when I started reading Prabhupada's book to say, oh my dear Prabhupada, you've got so many answers, I can't even come up with the question. So sometimes when others ask a question in a class like this, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this is a good question. I wish I could also think. But I just know that somewhere there is the answer. And over time, we give up looking for so many answers because we are convinced that only one answer matters, which is Krishna consciousness. The rest is all in the details. We have seen enough examples of our spiritual masters, His Grace Gauranga Darshan Prabhu recently. You just look at him and he's a living Bhagavatam. Like what else do we need in life? And what does he do to advance? He chants, he reads, he preaches, takes Krishna Prasadam, associates with devotees. That's all we need to do, Prabhu. So I would strongly encourage, let's not try to invent new things. If you spontaneously can come up with something that attracts you, good. Anything favorable to Krishna consciousness should be accepted. What's that verse? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. So anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. So reject whatever is not favorable, accept everything that's favorable. So develop your own if you need, but best is to just stick to what Prabhupada has already given us. We are already struggling to chant attentively. What's the need of developing more things? Just focus on chanting attentively. That should be enough. That is all. That is all that is required, chanting attentively. And we are not able to do it. Yeah, bro? Is that satisfies you? I know you didn't ask for yourself. You were asking to generate a discussion. But I wanted to emphasize on it. Anybody else? Yes, Sivya? Okay, nice question. So Xavier has asked, that in Prahlad's case, he was full of knowledge, so he knew what is right and what is wrong, and he could differentiate between the two. In our cases, sometimes right and wrong seems to be, there's a shade of gray. Sometimes right things look wrong, and sometimes wrong things look right. How do we differentiate? Oh, it's a learning experience, Xavier. You are lucky because you are guided by devotees and of course your parents who know what is right and what is wrong. But it's an experience that we go through. A lot of times, mistakes can be made. Falling down is not a problem. Staying down after falling is a problem. We fall down, it's not a problem. But staying down after falling is a problem. A child learns to walk how? Did you just get up and start walking like how animals do? No, because you stood up, and then you fell, then you stood up, and then you fell, and certain times, your mummy held your hand to say severe walk, and then with little bit of stabilizing here and there, then eventually you start walking. But to walk, we had to fall. It's a learning experience. How did, what's his name? Thomas Edison, right? He invented bulb. Yeah. How did he invent bulb? How many steps did he take to invent bulb? 10,000 steps. He made 10,000 attempts before he invented bulb. Otherwise, we might have by now, but at that time there was no light. So 10,000 steps. And when the reporters asked him, how on earth did you try 10,000 times? With so much of failures, how did you keep going? Where is the resilience coming from? Where is the determination coming from? And what was his response? He said, I didn't fail at all. He said, just look at his response. I invented bulb with 10,000 steps. There was no failures. Every step I was learning. Every step I was learning. Every step I was learning and improving and improvising. And then eventually there was a success. So he didn't even see it as a failure. So what is perceived by us as a failure, to him was a step up, step up, step up. How do you climb 1,000 steps? In Daniel Ages there is 1,000 steps. How do you climb 1,000 steps? Well, you climb the first one first, yeah? And when you're tired, you slow down. So what is right and wrong, philosophically speaking, is already in our scriptures. Now, Prabhupada has elaborated it, emphasized us, given us so much of clarity that what is right, what is wrong. The bare minimum, is the chant 16 rounds. That's the right thing. And do not indulge in the 4 obnoxious things. That's our regulative principle. So that is the bare minimum of right and wrong. If we can just stick to this, everything else, Krishna will give us the intelligence to understand. These 4 regulative principles are like the Lakshman Rekha. Back to the Ramayana again, for those of us who know, So when Mother Sita was alone in the forest, and this deer is captivating Mother Sita, and Lord Ram and Lakshman ran after them, then Lakshman draws something which is probably prominently known as the Lakshman Rekha. The 4 walls amongst the ashram, around the ashram, and tells Mother Sita not to step out of the Lakshman Rekha. And that 4 lines is exactly what Prabhupada has given us in the terms of the 4 regulative principles. But the moment we step out of one of them, then we are in danger. Just as Mother Sita was in danger, the moment she stepped out. Till the point she was inside the Lakshman Rekha, Ravan could not touch her. She was fully protected. Of course, she is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but just for the purpose of the Leela, till the time she was within the bounds of the Lakshman Rekha, she is fully fine. But the moment, and Ravan cannot enter that Lakshman Rekha. Both sides protected, double insurance. Inside is protection, outside is Ravan. And there's only a one thin line that's protecting the two. That's the 4 regulative principles. But the moment she stepped out, she is separated from Lord Ram for years. So our case is the same. The moment we will step out of the Lakshman Rekha or step out of the 4 regulative principles, then we are separated from Krishna for some time. So best is to stay, minimum is this, stay within the 4 regulative principles. Chant at least 16 rounds. That will save us. And everything else Krishna can take care thereafter, if we are sincere. Anything else? No? Satisfied? Eradication of hunger or increasing hunger? At the moment there is increasing hunger, right? Let me eradicate your hunger by sending all of us to the Prasadam hall. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai.